Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Chef Crystal and I welcome you to another fine live session here in CE 187. And I know Chef Crystal is going to jump on the bandwagon here in just a second. But ladies and gents, you guys rocked the house in week 2. We were thoroughly impressed going through the discussion forum. I think about 95% of you were able to get in there and make posts. And a lot of those posts were very well written. And I want to thank each and every one of you for all of your effort into that discussion forum. Please remember that as you progress in the world of culinary arts, and especially once you get yourself into management, which I hope every single one of you are destined for, the way you write, people will perceive your professionalism. So you want to make sure that you're avoiding things like LOL, which I don't know where that came from. But try not to use that in your written communications because it becomes a reflection upon your professionalism. And so we want to start getting everybody in the habit now of working in that manner. So once you are in industry, once you are in upper management, boom, you got it down and you're ready to roll. Chef Crystal, what's your feedback on week 2 here in CE 187?
So I went through the discussion forum and I saw a lot of people were giving some really great feedback to each other. Like I saw a lot of constructive feedback. You guys rock out. Also, like as far as shell on wheels.
Everybody shell on wheels.
A lot of people were saying that was for millennials or Generation Z with low income, and I thought that was perfect. I thought it was perfect. And then we had I don't even know how to say it. Like I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. Which one is it?
The pastry shop.
The shop?
The pastry shop.
No, no, that's Le Patissiere Paris.
Let me look here. Let me look.
The other one was like Lace CHOIX. You know which one I'm talking about? Shoe.
Yeah.
That one. They were saying that one was for like a little bit more high-end Generation Xers. In the 45 to 65 age range. I saw a lot of people actually taking time and diving in, using what we learned in class last week, and then actually applying it to the discussion. So kudos to you guys.
Hats off. And you know what? There is a distinct difference between those that attended the live session and those that obviously didn't in the discussion forum. So those that are attending this discussion forum on a weekly basis are leaps and bounds ahead. So make sure you continue to attend. It's only for your benefit and your future. So ladies and gents, thumbs up. You guys rock the house. Great job. The discussion forums are not only great to learn different opinions and share your opinion, but they also serve as a fantastic networking tool. And Chef Crystal will certainly back me up on this. This industry is all about relationships and networking. I run across people. I've been in this business now for 38 years. I still run into people that I worked with in the 80s. I mean, we've all aged. We look different now, but and we survived the 80s, number one. But those relationships that you forge now are going to carry with you for the remainder of your career. So really focus on them. I think they're extremely valuable. So great job, everybody. Hey, ladies and gents, we're going to jump right into this week's class because we got a lot on the slate. We're going to take a look first at our class page. Week 3, CE 187. First, all of the activities that have a check mark here on the right-hand side, when you open and complete one of those activities, that will post attendance for you. It's a little secret. You're all in on it now. So there's no more excuse. I should not have to pick up the phone and look for anybody as to where you're at. Make sure that you're posting attendance at least every 3 to 4 days. The menu psychology, you can do that once every 2 or 3 days. It only takes a minute to go through it, and boom, your attendance is posted and you're golden. The closer you stay to the program, the better your chances of success are. And that's what Chef Crystal and I want for every single person here. So please make sure that we stay on top of our attendance. There is no excuse for not posting attendance. So menu psychology, we're going to talk about that tonight and kind of dive into that. And then stages of production, very, very important. Thank you everybody for being here for this week 3 live session. And if you can't, and you wouldn't know it because you're not here, make sure you watch the live session archive. It's very, very important. And then down at the bottom, we have a menu psychology knowledge check this week. And that is based upon the reading up at the top of the page. Any questions about this week? Ladies and gents, everybody should walk out of week 3 with a 100. I am very excited for this week. All right, ladies and gents, let's feel free to ask lots of questions tonight. Once again, this information that we're going to share with you this evening is going to separate you from the remainder of the competition that's out there. You are going to be a Escoffier with this information, and that's what you need to succeed in the restaurant industry. We are going to start out by talking about menu psychology tonight, and there's a lot of psychology behind the development of a menu. Who knows how long the average guest looks at a menu before they make a decision? Does anybody have any guesses? I want to have one staff, one guess.
5 minutes maybe.
Somebody wrote in the chat 2 minutes. We got 5 minutes.
3 to 5 minutes maybe.
3 to 5 minutes? Well, check it out, ladies and gents. Renelle, what's your guess?
We have a 10 minutes.
I look at the menu for like 10 minutes. They still pick the same thing.
All right, ladies.
I look at 10 minutes because I like to look at each category, prices, and all of that stuff. So
The reality is, ladies and gents, you only have 109 seconds to sell that customer your dish. The average customer only views a menu for 109 seconds. That's less than 2 minutes that the average customer makes up their minds. So menu psychology is extremely critical. So when we format our menus in industry, we just don't sit down and start typing and say, here you go. It has to be laid out effectively. So within that 109 seconds, you can capture the guest at the highest possible dollar figure. So that's what we're after. It's the layout of your menu is how you get your guest to choose what you want them to choose. It's called psychology. Where are the hot spots on a menu? Does anybody know? Can anybody put that in the chat? Where's the hot spot on the menu? There's 3 of them. Can somebody put that in the chat?
Ayanka replied the meats.
What's that?
Ayanka replied the meats. Steven said the middle. David said left. Center.
Okay.
Brunel, I believe, says seafood. We're getting appetizer, center, corner.
All right. These are all fantastic guesses. And we're going to get into that here in just a second. But there is a psychology about where you want to put those items. Ladies and gents, how many people get a little tired of doing those narratives? Anybody out there get tired of doing those narratives? Yeah? Yep. This is where that information comes into play. When you create your menu item, you have to be able, or when you create your menu, you have to be able to describe to your guest within that 109 seconds exactly what you want them to know about that dish. So in other words, you cannot write a lengthy paragraph about how wonderful this created dish is because in that 109 seconds, guess what they're going to do? Right over it. So the narratives that we ask you to work on extensively in this course now come into play. You need to be able to create a brief, vivid description. It's extremely critical. So you can capture that guest within the 109 seconds. Here's another great point. Fonts, right? A font is the shape and the style of a letter that is used to create a menu. When we create menus, it is critical that you stick with only one font. Has anybody ever gone into a restaurant before and they have like this ye old fancy lettering, and then they have like an italic section, and they have an underline section, and they have this beautiful cursive? It's too much and it's overwhelming. 109 seconds is all you have. always stick with one font. Now, you can do different sizes of letters, but you should only choose 2 different sizes of letters, and that's it. So font, vivid descriptions, and then I want to hear from some people out there. You guys can send your answers through on the chat box. What do you guys think about dollar signs on menus? Chef Chris.
Chef, I think I like to see the dollar signs on the menu.
You like dollar signs?
I do, because it tells me what it is. Like,
Right.
dollar signs, it's no question mark. I don't have to ask any questions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like asking unnecessary questions when I'm going out to eat. Like, I don't feel like I should have to say, well, how much is this? Because it should be right there.
Yeah.
Billy has his hands up.
Billy, what's up?
I think it's very important to have that price there, because, you know, if you can't afford to eat there, it's too late once you ordered the meal.
No, but the psychology behind the dollar sign. Would you put dollar signs on your menu, Billy?
Yes, I would.
Yes, you would? Okay.
We're having a lot of people going back and forth. They're saying no dollar signs, and it says it looks extravagant without the dollar signs.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are saying without dollar signs, Chef.
Okay, so everybody's answer is right, because there is no black and white answer to this question, but it's very, very interesting. The general perception or the general consensus is that you never ever want to use a dollar sign, because it does exactly what Chef Crystal was saying. It drives the customer's attention to the price of the dish, which is not what we want to do. We don't want our customers to be able to shopping for food by price. We want them to be able to purchase the item that they want regardless of the price. So dollar signs, I think if you were in a family style restaurant, or if you were in a bistro or a brasserie, some type of a brewery type thing, I would agree. I would put dollar signs on the menu, because a lot of times those people want to know exactly what they're spending. However, in a little bit of a finer dining restaurant, I would recommend no dollar signs. I think that is not good. So once again, 109 seconds. Ladies and gents, I'm not going to go through this next page line item by line item, but I do want to share some psychology here real quick. There's some terms that we work with when it comes to menu development. Menu development is the bad word. It should be menu evolution. Because when you get into industry and either you create your own menu at your own restaurant, or you participate in the development of a restaurant or the menu at a location, it's always start and stop, start and stop. You need to manage the statistics of the sales of all of your menu items to find out exactly what is effective and what is not effective. You cannot just create a menu and put it out there and say, I love it, because the psychology of the menu will fail you every time. We have menu items, and one of the menu items is called a plow horse. That is a menu item that has a very low profitability, but it has a high popularity, right? Ooh, that's a tough one. So let's say you're serving a New York strip steak with pan-seared vegetables and roasted dauphinoise potatoes, and you put it on your menu at $18. At a 50% food cost, that means it has a very high food cost, a very low margin of profitability, but your customers are going to buy a lot of it, right? So placement on your menu is going to be extremely critical, and we'll get back to that here in just a few moments. Another type of item that we deal with is called the dog, okay? Dogs are dogs, right? They have low profitability and they have low popularity. So you put on baked Alaskan cod at $12 a portion with rice pilaf and steamed carrots, right? Sounds like something from a nursing home. Most people wouldn't be interested in it. It's it's a low profitability, and it's not going to sell very much. You need to be conscientious of that, because that's mise en place that you carry in your kitchen that you're not going to use. Now, we all want to write a menu filled with stars, right? Stars are my favorite, right? Stars are menu items that have a great measure of profitability, And they also have a very high measure of popularity. So high popularity, high profitability. When I refer to profitability, let's say we have a hamburger on our menu, and the average food cost for a hamburger would be about 28%. So it cost us $2.80 to make. So that means each time we sell one, we make a profit of 72%, right? That's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful profitability. So those are the menu items that we really need to think about. Where are we going to lay that out on our menu if our customers are only looking at the menu for 109 seconds? That's an item I want to sell. That's something I want everybody to see. And then our last menu item is a puzzle. And the puzzles are very, very difficult to figure out. They have high profitability and very low popularity, right? We wish our whole menu was filled with puzzles, right? Because they make us a lot of money. So the bottom line to this story is, when you create your first menu, when you're in industry, you need to track the sales of each and every item. Do not assume. A lot of restaurants go into bankruptcy or they go belly up, period, because of a poorly engineered menu. There is a tremendous amount of psychology behind it. Does anybody have any questions so far about anything that we've said?
So Chef, it's basically saying you need to see what your customer likes, because just because you're a chef and you know, oh, this baked Alaska is high end and fancy and people are gonna love it, doesn't mean your demographic is necessarily going to be like, let me get the baked Alaska. They might just want the spaghetti. That was a really stretched out example, but
I bet you if I sat down with Marshall over here on the screen, Marshall Jones, I bet if we sat down, we could probably kick out a menu, the food that we love, that is completely awesome. But the reality is it profitable, and are the people going to like it? You need to take a realistic approach to your menu items. And the only way you can have an absolute menu or an absolute honest approach is by looking at the numbers, because the numbers don't lie. So you need to be very, very focused on that information. Your register system, also known as a POS or a point of sale system, will most likely track your percentage of sales, right? So you have to be very, very careful. If I know that I have a menu item, for example, that's a plow horse, right? It's low popularity, it's low profitability. And my register is saying, hey, you're only selling 2 or 3 of these a week, but you're carrying the mise en place in your kitchen. Wow, what am I going to do? Bye. You have to remember, ladies and gents, every single piece of mise en place in your kitchen, it's not food, it's money. And that's the way it needs to be looked at. So when you are designing your actual menu, here's a couple of hints that are really going to help you out in the long run. Number one, we asked a question earlier in the class about where do you put the food? Where is that? And there were a lot of great responses. Left-hand corner, right-hand corner, middle, bottom, left, right, front, back. The reality is there is a thing that is called the golden triangle that we work with. The golden triangle is the upper right-hand corner, the middle of the page, and the upper left-hand corner, right? Right? That is referred to as a golden triangle. The first thing that people are going to look at when they open up your menu are your upper right-hand corner and your upper left-hand corner, and then they will look at the middle of the page. That is called a scan pattern. Okay? Make sure you remember the term scan pattern. People open the menu. That's the way the human eye works. That's the psychology behind it. And you have 109 seconds to capture somebody with a star menu item, high profitability, high popularity in that scan area. Any questions about that? Your menus, ladies and gentlemen, should be at least 40% white space. Okay? If they are anything more than that, then your menu will become too complicated and too difficult. When people get frustrated when they're looking at menus, because it's all those different fonts and colors and everything else, and a lot of stuff on a menu make customers feel uncomfortable, they're immediately going to refer to those dollar signs, and that's what they're going to focus on, and they're just going to buy something that's the least expensive, and boom, out the door. You've lost money. Where do the most profitable items go on a menu? Who knows? Any guesses?
In the middle?
In the middle?
Specials,
Where?
chef's choice or specials.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. That's a good answer. Any other answers out there? All right, ladies and gents, the answer is it always goes in the top of the middle, right? The reason for that is your scan pattern, boom, boom, boom. So they open up the menu. Up in the corner, they look, I don't know. They look, I don't know. And then by the time they get down to the middle, top of the page, boom, you've captured them on your most profitable, most popular items. So that's extremely important. Chef Crystal?
Hey, Chef. Just want to go over this one more time because it seems like there may have been a little bit of confusion. White space is the blank area on your menu
Correct.
where there isn't any words or
Correct.
where there isn't any words.
No
So
words, no logos, nothing.
no pictures?
No pictures, no nothing. It creates a relaxing sensation. If you open up a menu and it is packed with stuff, it is difficult to read, difficult to understand, and it psychologically, it stresses people out when there's a lot of clutter on the menu. So we want to keep our menus clean with about 40% white space. The 40% white space also allows the eye to travel the scan pattern, right? Right, left, middle, okay? The
So
white
nothing Cheesecake Factory-ish, right?
Oh, no. No.
Not the encyclopedia.
That just stresses me out. I won't even go to Cheesecake Factory because by their menu. Yeah. I don't know.
If you haven't ever been to Cheesecake Factory, guys, they have like an encyclopedia, like a thick book, and it's their menu, and it's stressful. So
You got to be careful about that. Okay.
you have to know before you go with them.
Oh, yeah. V, what's your question?
Chef, I must be crazy because my wife and I, we love menus like that. Like, we will take them home, we'll look at it. Maybe we're bored. I don't know if there's a problem with it. We'll sit there and, did you get that menu? Like, I like all that craziness. Is something wrong with me? Because, like, Cheesecake Factory, I love it. I'll look at it and, oh my God, it'll just, you know.
No,
Is that because of being a foodie or what?
That's probably something tells you you've got a creative streak on the inside of you, and you enjoy that. And you know what? That's totally cool. That's totally cool. But our big focus is wanting to maintain that scan pattern, right? Top left, top right, down to the middle. And we have to be able to keep our customers' eyes. This way, we can have the strategic ability to place menu items where we want them.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
So, and a lot of times I've seen some really cool menus in my time. I mean, stuff that I like, how did they ever think of this? But do they make money is the big question. And are they effective? Is it an effective tool? Everyone needs to remember that your menu is a huge tool in marketing, how you sell your food, what you want your customers to buy, and how much money you want to make. So it's just not putting stuff on paper. It's very, very intense. Ladies and gents, here's some good information to keep in the back of your mind. We have a tendency to avoid doing things like ending prices in 0.99, 0.95. And the reason that we tend to do that is you are attracting people that are looking for a lower priced item. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's a lot of people, you know, I've been guilty many times. Hey, I don't want to spend that much money. And so my eyes are automatically drawn to that 99 or that 95. And
Jeff, we were just talking about this in the chat.
what came out of the conversation?
So the message was, well, the the chat message was, it's so far up, sorry. It was like sorry. Somebody said, so $6 instead of $5.99. And I wrote back, $6 seems expensive drastically than $5.99. It's all about mind tricks. And then there was a message saying, not if you're actually charging them $6.
Yeah. which happens too as well. And so it's a big part of menu psychology. And you know what? And I'm not saying it's distinctly wrong to put the 99 on there. It's not distinctly wrong to put the 95. However, this is some of the psychology put behind that. $5.99 and $7.99 look a lot different than $6 and $8, right? And you're talking 2 cents. So it's about where you're drawing your eye, right? If I have a higher profitability on that $6 item, I'm going to go $6 and $8 because that $6 looks a lot less expensive than $8. But $5.99 and $7.99, I don't know. Travis Cook.
Yeah, Chef, regarding the dollar signs and everything in menus, the place I work at, we actually don't have any numbers in our menu. We have $1 through $5 signs for our prices.
That would confuse me.
That would make me upset because what? What does this mean?
I mean,
it's very expensive, but I don't know how very expensive this is.
Yeah.
Or this is very cheap and I don't know how cheap it is. That would scratch my skin.
It's really important that your menu communicates a clear and concise message, okay? And that kind of goes back to the 95 and the 99 thing. A lot of people do that in order, it says like, hey, look at me, or hey, I'm over here, or hey, this, and you want to avoid that because that is not clear and concise. It is an obvious tactic to draw you. Something else you want to avoid is called a price trail. Yeah, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with a price trail. Let's see, chicken sandwich, ... $9. Okay. The reason you don't want to do that is you don't want to be drawing your customers' attention to the price, because otherwise every single item that they look at, they're going to follow that dot trail, and then boom. You want them to make a decision based on the dish they want, not the price that the dish cost, right? Scan trail, expensive dish, high profit, right in the middle. If I'm doing ... then I'm going to drag my customers' eyes to perhaps a plow horse, which is low profitability and low popularity. And then dollar signs, we talked about that. I don't care for the use of dollar signs. There are people that are very conscientious about that type of thing. It all depends on your concept, so you want to be really careful about that. Some of the key things that we've talked about menus as we're wrapping it up here. The scan trail, huge. Do not forget it. Left, right, center. That's the eyes. 109 seconds, right? That's how long you have to sell that to your customer. Clear, concise communication. Understand the descriptions. No 99s, no 95s. No, we don't want to do that. 40% white space. Okay? Do not overcrowd your menu. It's not a good thing. Does anybody have any more questions about menus? Anybody? All right, ladies and gents, let's move on to the next subject. Menus, right? So we learned a lot about menus.
There is one question, I'm sorry, it just came in the chat.
Sure, go ahead.
Selling value or selling an experience?
What's that?
It says, are you selling value or selling an experience?
Me personally?
No, I'm guessing as far as your menu, like if I'm going to make a menu, am I pricing and David, please jump in if I'm not interpreting your question correctly. Am I pricing my items versus the value of the price, or pricing it versus the experience that I'm giving?
No. No and no. That would be the answer to that question. And this is the answer to that question. Once you get into CE 167, you're going to learn about all the cost behind restaurants. We break everything down as $1, right? So food cost traditionally will be right around 28%, right? So the first 28 cents out of that dollar, right, is going to go to cover the cost of the food. The next 40 cents coming out of that dollar is going to cover the cost of labor. The next 10% that comes out of that dollar is going to cover the cost of your lease and your rent. And then you have utilities, and then you have general, and you have administrative things to cover. So traditionally, what we'll do in the restaurant industry, if it cost us $3 to produce that product, a simple way is to multiply it times 3. Okay? So if the food cost is $3, then we will put it on our menu at $9. Does that make sense? And you will all get into this quite heavily once you're in CE 167, and you'll learn all the formulas and the way that we do this. But our prices are very, very strategically set in order to cover all of our costs. That's why the plow horse, the stars, and all these other dishes on there are extremely critical to track. Because if you have something that is increasing your cost and selling, then you're going to go broke. Versus something that will lower your cost and is selling, then you'll make money. So it's a very black and white game, but it has to be an exact game as well.
Chef, there was kind of like a message in the chat that was saying, like, am I to believe that nobody is looking at the price before ordering the food? And I responded, and I wanted everybody else to see if they didn't look at the chat. I was like, no, not at all. But you want people to at least look at the menu item in the description before they look at the price, so that they could possibly justify in their mind spending whatever you priced it as for the item. You don't want people to just automatically look at the prices and saying, I'm spending $10 and I'm getting chicken tenders. Maybe you want them to get chicken parmesan, which might be $25 or whatever you price it as, but you want them to read your description and feel like they're going to get the most for their money when they read that. Right, Chef?
Excellent. Very well said, Chef Crystal. That was right on the money. The whole bottom line is, hey, look at me. Don't worry about how much I cost. Look at me. I taste better, right? That's exactly what you're trying to do. Yes, you have to divulge your pricing. I think it's ethical, and it's straight up, and your customer has a right to know. You will lose customers if your customers do not know what they are paying for their product. However, you do not want to draw attention to your pricing prior to drawing attention to your food. That's what the whole psychology is. 99, 95, menu or price trails, dollar signs, fonts, all these other things draws the customer's attention to the price. You want the customer's attention to the food. Hey, I only wanted to spend $25 on a dish, but that Chilean sea bass wrapped in banana leaf with a compound butter for 38 bucks looks great. That's because you sold it and you put it on the right spot in the menu. So you just created a star. Are there any other questions about that? Nope. Ladies and gents, let's talk about how we manage the food behind the menu. All right? This is going to be a very interesting conversation. Before we get going too far, there's a big thing out there in our industry called HACCP. HACCP kind of got going back in the early 90s, late 80s when I got into the kitchen. And it is called Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point. Okay? And basically what that is, it's a system that we use in a lot of restaurants, or versions of that system, to track the flow of food throughout our facility. It is an extremely critical tool for you to learn and understand. For example, if I have a case of chicken, when we call them WOGs, right? W-O-G-S. That's a 3 and up chicken that comes in my back door. I need to know when it came in, how long it's been in my refrigerator, how long did they cook it for, how long did it sit out, how long has it been refrigerated for, and how soon till I need to sell it. Yes, ma'am.
Also, what temperature it came in the door at, too.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep, absolutely. 41 or below. It's very, very critical. You have to remember, everything that comes in your back door is money. You've taken it out of the bank, now you're putting it on your shelf. So you have to manage your food supply just like your money. It's very, very critical. And I'm really glad that Chef Crystal brought that up about the temperature, because we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. The flow of food is the path your food, that the food on your menu takes throughout your operation. It's really interesting because, you know, I talked about that chicken. It comes in your back door, then it goes in your refrigerator, then it comes out, then it goes in your oven. So the food moves around quite a bit. You need to be able to track that food for food safety and profitability reasons. One of the biggest things that we worry about in the restaurant industry is what's called time temperature abuse. Okay, that is particularly sensitive for foods that we call TTCS or TCS, time temperature control for safety. TCS foods are high moisture, high protein foods, poultry, fish, chicken, dairy products, salads, prepared salads, that type of thing. We need to be extremely sensitive to the temperatures that these products are held at and how hot they're cooked and how quickly they're cooled. You don't want to get anybody sick, so it's extremely critical. TCS, time temperature control for safety. I know I said 4 words and I know the acronym is only 3, but I didn't do it. TCS, time temperature control for safety. You purchase your product, you receive your product, you have to store your product, and you have to prepare your product. You got to cook it. Proper cooking temperatures is critical. Hold it. You have to make sure that you hold it for more than, at a higher temperature than 140 degrees. Otherwise, that bacteria is going to creep in. Cool it. You have to cool your product to less than 41 degrees within a 4-hour time period after cooking. It is extremely critical. Reheating and service. So those are the steps that we look at in the restaurant industry as far as the food. Now, you'll get into this a little bit later in the course as well, but purchasing, right? You know, I think we've been working with eggs. Chef Crystal's kind of coming over from the pastry side, where I think there's a lot of eggs and flour over there. We buy a lot differently in the restaurant industry. I ran a DoubleTree for a number of years, and we bought by the semi, right? That's a lot of food coming in the back door. We did about 4,000 covers every 48 hours, so we were hopping and popping. So we went through a lot of food. We do not buy a dozen eggs at a time. It doesn't work that way, folks.
You're going to be at the stores too much if you're only buying 12 eggs at a time.
You'll be there all day long, right?
I remember maybe when I first started in the kitchen, somebody was like, oh yeah, go in there and go get the eggs. And I'm looking for like a carton of eggs. I'm like, I don't see anything. They're like, I had eggs over there, get it. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like 4 cartons, maybe 3.
15 dozen is the smallest pack now. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just talking about one sheet.
Oh, it's that there's 30 per tray.
Right.
Yeah. So that's 1 case of eggs is 15 dozen. So I mean that's the smallest pack that you can buy. Flour, Chef Crystal, I know knows this. You know that's a 50-pound sack right there.
You just bring over your little wheel cart and you just grab it.
Just wheel it over, wheel it back. Yeah. So thinking about what we just talked about on the prior slide, food storage and food tracking is extremely critical. If I'm buying 15 dozen eggs at a time, or if I'm buying a case of ribeyes, which averages right around 48 pounds per case, I have to make sure that I take very good care of my product. Otherwise, I'm going to lose it. So the food industry, our master pack is, or our biggest pack is the pallet. And I ran a casino for a number of years where we bought by the pallet. Our walk-ins were all done with the forklift. So that was a pretty amazing experience. And then we have a master case. And then we have an inner pack. So like the eggs that we were talking about, they come in a 15 dozen inner pack. And then there is a base product. So when you go to purchase your product at your restaurant, it is a very, very creative game. It is not straight up. And it takes a lot of experience to understand exactly what's going on. Because a lot of times they're going to come to you and you're going to order, I'll take one bone-in export rib. They'll say, okay, that'll be $10 a pound. But if you buy a case, I'll give it to you for $9.90 a pound. And then all of a sudden you're stuck with an extra 30 pounds of prime rib, and it becomes a very tricky game. So it's something that takes a lot of skill and experience. Isn't that right, Chef Crystal?
That's definitely right. There's been plenty of times where I just ask them to send me over their order guide. Like, hey, what do you sell? Send it to me. And I'll get an order guide from multiple places. Because one thing you'll probably learn is you don't buy everything from the same place. Because different prices from different people. But I get the order guides from everybody and I highlight all the stuff that I need and then I compare it. Because my eyes jump. So highlighting it makes me focus on what I really need to focus on. So I'm like, okay, they sell eggs for $10.99. These people sell eggs for $9.99. Gonna get them from over here. But doing that, comparing those prices, it helps you save money. And then, you build relationships with those vendors also.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely true. I'm glad Chef Crystal brought that up because there's a lot of various forms of purchasing. A lot of times you as a chef will be purchasing. I spent my career, I always had purchasing agents who handled all of that for me, the inventory and the purchasing and all that other kind of stuff. So depending on the size of your facility will really depend on what your hand in the actual purchasing process will be. And I also really liked what Chef Crystal said about the relationships that you develop with your purveyors. Extremely critical. Always respect those relationships. It's easy to dump on those people. So remember that. It'll pay dividends. Linda, what's your question?
I used to do ordering for a nursing home. I was a kitchen manager, and I ordered according to what my menu requests. And I worked for a company that had certain vendors that you can only go to. You couldn't shop around. So
contractual obligations.
Yes, and that had
yeah, and we could spend a whole class on those contractual obligations because I've done a lot of those for the years, and they get really slippery, and they become very, very special. Yeah, ladies and gents. So when we receive food, what do? Chef Crystal alluded to this a little bit earlier, and it is a critical thing because you have to remember when that food hits your back door, you don't know what the history is. But there are a couple of things that you can do to ensure that you are getting what you pay for. Number one, you need to visually inspect all of your product, right? Especially perishables such as produce, proteins, that type of thing. Visual inspection. Do not assume that just because they say it's a case of 140 count lemons, that it is a case of 140 count lemons, right? Very, very important. The other thing that we need to talk about is when you receive food, things need to be temped. Isn't that right, Chef Crystal? It's critical, right?
Absolutely. There's plenty of times that the health inspector has walked in and the truck is pulling up, and the health inspector will just watch and see what you're gonna do. I'm like, hey, where's your thermometer? Please get your thermometer. Thank you. Check everything that comes in. Because those are points for your inspection, but they're also points that you need to be getting into a regular habit of doing. Because if your fish comes in at 65 degrees, you're gonna get sick.
Well, wait a second. So if you're saying it comes in at 65 degrees, and we know that the TDZ, the temperature danger zone, is 4 hours, but we have no idea how long it's been 65 degrees.
And that's the problem, Chef. I don't know how long it's been on the truck, so I'm sending it back. I don't want this, and you don't have to take anything that comes to you. Until they drive away, you can send anything back. That's one thing.
You're saying you could have gotten a lot of people sick if you wouldn't have checked that temperature.
Definitely.
Potentially lost your restaurant.
Check that. I don't want to lose my restaurant because of some stinky fish.
Yeah, that's not good. Travis, what's up, bud?
My biggest thing when I used to be the head cook at a supper club in the town where I used to live, we'd get trucks in and I'd send guys downstairs to put it away. FIFO used to drive me nuts.
Oh, yeah.
They would just throw things on the shelf. I'd go down there. I'd find stuff that would been there 6-7 months, and they'd be putting the new stuff in front of it. I fired numerous guys for that stuff.
Yeah, I actually terminated a relationship with a purveyor, U.S. Food Service, over FIFO because they were not using the first in, first out principle when they were delivering their products. So to give you a quick story, you always check expiration dates when they come in. It is critical, especially for perishable foods. We received 12 cases of sour cream that were set to expire on September the 30th, right? The next week, we received 14 cases of sour cream that expired on September the 28th. So what does that tell you? They didn't rotate the product in the warehouse. So you know what? Do I want to do business with a purveyor like that? And when you're buying 10, 12, 14, 20 cases of a single product at a time, it's a pretty significant account. That wasn't me that fell down. That was my camera. If I fell that far down, I'd still be getting up. At any rate, labeling. When your product comes in, it is critical that you label it, especially your TCS foods. Everybody remembers what TCS foods are, right? High moisture, high protein, highly susceptible, low acidic, dairy, fish, chicken, prepared salads, that type of foods are TCS. They need to be labeled when they come in your back door. On your label, you need to make sure that you put the name, your name, the date it came in. TCS foods get 7 days, right? So you have to put the date of reception and the expiration date, which would be 7 days from that time. It is critical that you get your staff and yourself into the habit of doing this. All of the information that we're sharing tonight, by the way, is already on the class page in the week 3 slides. So all of this stuff will be there for you to refer to. Cooking temperatures. Have any of you been questioned by your chef instructors about cooking temperatures yet? Has anybody had to do an assignment in 101 where you have to take a picture of the actual thermometer?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. There's a reason for that, right? Because when we receive and we cook foods, for example, if I have to cook off 200 chicken breasts for a banquet, right? And I undercook that chicken and then I allow it to sit out for an extended period of time, guess what? I run the risk of poisoning 200 people. So those thermometers that we're having you take pictures of play an extremely vital part in the success of your operation. It is a bear to recover from a food poisoning outbreak. It is expensive. Chipotle is still unburying themselves after all these years. So that is critical. Yeah, not criticals. Any questions so far? Ladies and gents, you will receive some recall notices. Make sure you take those recall notices very seriously, right? And the biggest mistake that people make when they get recalls is they do not communicate with their staffs. By the way, the orange juice has been recalled for type salmonella food poisoning. Don't use it. Right? You need to clearly label the product, separate the product from your inventory, and communicate with the staff. Chef Crystal.
Chef, so you're saying don't use it, not throw it away. What am I supposed to do with it?
After you remove it from your inventory and you label it do not use, then you're going to contact your purveyor and it's going back to where it came from, right? And they will issue you a credit, but make sure that you communicate with your staff. It's vitally important because there's nothing worse than saying, well, I meant to tell you, right? When it's too late. Just a quick talk about a variance. There are certain times that when working with the health department, which is done by the local authorities, by your county, traditionally in the United States, that you will need what is called a variance to code. A variance to code is when you seek approval from the health department to keep a product at the wrong temperature for a period of time. Okay? For example, if you're going to be cold smoking salmon for a period of 6 hours, that would be in the TDZ more than 4 hours, so you need to seek a variance from the health department. And this sheet that is on your class page will gladly explain all of that information to you. And if anybody has any questions, they can certainly reach out to me and I'll be glad to talk to you about it and help you out with it. Cooking temperatures, we've mentioned multiple times tonight. So you need to make sure that not only you, but you keep your staff doing that. One of the big things that the health department always checks for, right? When you are reheating TCS foods, time, temperature, control for safety, you will hear TCS over and over again. TCS foods must be reheated to a minimum of 165 degrees for 15 seconds. Always remember that, because you will be asked that at some point in time in your career. There is a whole chart on the class page under the week 3 slide presentation. Talks about all the different pictures here. Just really focus on reheating, the reheat temperatures. Reheated foods for holding must reach a temperature of 165 for 15 seconds and must maintain a temperature of 135 degrees while holding. Critical, critical. I've answered that question and it's saved me a lot of time. Isn't that right, Chef Crystal? Have you had that issue with the health department?
Yes, and keeping a log about it has also been like a thing too.
Yes.
People have a hard time writing on a piece of paper saying, I heated this up to this time, I'm reheating it up to this, and I'm putting it until this time.
Absolutely. I love logs. Yeah. Until you get the one cook that just fills the log out without doing anything. Yeah. I caught one guy doing that, and he actually filled it out a week in advance because he was going to be off for a couple days.
Yes, I've had that same problem. It's the same pen, the same handwriting for each sheet. It seems suspicious. I don't know.
Well, I actually thanked him for, being so conscientious to make sure it's get done. And part of thanking him, I just gave him a couple extra days off, just to really enjoy it and say, hey, you take some time off to think about that one. Yeah. Ladies and gents, consumer advisories. I'm sure we've all been to restaurants before where you say, eating undercooked foods may, contaminate so-and-so and XYZ. You're going to have to refer to your local health codes for labeling information about that. Okay, there's not a standard 50-state law for that. It's all up to your local county, right? So a lot of counties, I know here where we live in southern Arizona, they like for you to put on the menu consuming raw or undercooked meats, poultry. You run the risk of foodborne illness. And I hate that. It just bothers me because it just makes people think they're going to get sick before they even order it. So I don't prefer to do that, but you have to do it. Some places will have the wait staff notify your customer. Some places put a table tent on the actual table, and then other places will provide a brochure. Very important though. You have to do what the health department says. Otherwise, they get very, very angry. Ladies and gents, I think we're almost to the end of the class. During the service process, make sure that you are very focused on cross-contamination. That's a huge part of the food cycle in the restaurant business, right? So if you are cutting a chicken on a cutting board and then so-and-so comes along and chops up a tomato, bingo, you just won the award for cross-contamination. So you need to be very conscientious about that. All of this, what we're talking about tonight, affects the image of your business. It is huge. If you go through a foodborne illness outbreak from your facility, it is the kiss of death. It kills employee morale. The financial expense is huge. Customers don't want to come back. And a lot of times it's just too hard to recover. So make sure you follow those temperatures like we talked about. Here's kind of cool. I didn't put these slides in here, but sometimes on the menu, somebody asked a question earlier in the class, are we charging for experience? Are we charging for value? And you're going to learn about all that in 167, but this is just kind of a tease. But if you have one item and you want to charge $5, but you want to charge $7 for that same item, here's a suggestion for you. This is it looks like a turkey BLT sandwich. Pretty generic. $5 sandwich, happy, right? But if you want to charge $10 for that sandwich, right? It's so simple just to put a leaf of lettuce, a tomato, 50 cents worth of coleslaw on there, and bingo, you're in business, right? You just made an extra $5.
Those toothpicks are really expensive looking.
Oh yeah. If it was my place, I'd cut the toothpicks in half to save money.
Ooh.
Same thing with this hamburger here, ladies and gentlemen, right? Which one would you pay $1.99 for, and which one would you pay $15 for? And there's not a huge difference in cost between the two items, right? They both cost about the same to make. This one has a couple fries and some garnishes, but they're both burger patties, they're both buns, and they're both hamburgers. So it's kind of some of the psychology that we use. Ladies and gents, does anybody have any questions? Thoughts, concerns? Chef Crystal, any closing words?
No.
Oh,
I don't have any closing words. We like literally covered everything
and the whole business.
the whole business.
Yeah, except human resources. We'll do that next week, though.
Not yet.
Yeah. Ladies and gents, Chef Crystal, what an awesome live session. Thank you, everybody. We learned a lot about menus tonight. Don't forget that white space, 109 seconds to review the scan pattern, right, left, right, down in the middle. Where do we put our most expensive item? Right in the middle. We talked about dogs. We talked about plow horses. We talked about starves. There is a lot of psychology that goes behind the development of a menu. That is your tool to get people to eat what you want them to eat, right? It is your tool to make the money that you want to make. Remember, you have to keep copies of the analytics coming off of your menus. You always have to be checking that constantly. It should be done at least once a month. What am I selling? What am I not selling? Guesses don't work when it comes to making money. Know what you are doing. We had a great talk about food safety this evening, right? Talked about the flow of food. Chef Crystal, she brought it up right off the bat. Check that temperature. That is critical throughout the entire flow, not only when it comes in the back door, but its storage temperature, its cooking temperature, its holding temperature, and its serving temperature. Critical. This is the information that is going to make you a chef versus the guy walking in off the street. This is the stuff that you need to know. Ladies and gents, we also talked about how we post attendance in this class. I should not have to contact anybody saying, where are you? Complete an activity on the class page. Check marks next to it, right? If there is a check mark next to the activity, you can do those activities as many times as you like, and only the highest score sticks. You can do it for the next 7 days, right? You'll still get the same score. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys rock. Chef Crystal and I are here at your service to help you succeed. Make sure you reach out and you let us know what we can do to help you. Have a great night, everybody.